Hello everyone, welcome to the Rasta channel. So today we're going to tell spoilers for episode 167 in the SwallowedStar series, based on the novel story. Remember, this is just a novel version. If there are differences in the story in the series, please understand, guys. Okay, instead of being curious, let's watch the video until it's finished. Luofeng finally found new strength through the armor made from these fragments. The black armor gave him extraordinary strength, as if he had the combined power of 80 to 90 world masters. However, he also realized that this ability was limited by his weak physical strength. To overcome this, Luofeng transferred the existence of the armor to a golden-horned beast, drastically increasing the creature's power. When the armor merged with the giant beast, he felt an incredible surge of power. Now, with his new armor and power, Luofeng prepares to continue his adventure, potentially entering a greater conflict in space, while exploring the secret depths of the power he has just discovered. Luofeng has now acquired a mysterious armor crafted from fragments. In this process, Luofeng understood that the golden-horned behemoth, which had also obtained armor, produced extraordinary power, about 1,000 times the peak power of a world master. He judged that this power was equivalent to an immortal-level warrior who had more control over the laws of nature. Luofeng observed that there were 3 levels of power among the warrior realm at the immortal level: Immortal Army Lord, Immortal Marquis, who was close to the level of King, and Immortal King. He calculated that, of course, in battle, he would need to use all his abilities if he had to face an opponent equal to an immortal, while realizing that much of this information was the result of speculation based on his experience and understanding. During this adventure, Luofeng realized the importance of his physical strength in maximizing the potential of this armor. He also realized that although this armor is very strong, it can also ward off mental attacks from the immortal warrior figure. This ability adds a new dimension to his struggle to become stronger in this harsh universe. During his year-long journey in the Wulong starfield, Luofeng continued to search for treasure in the Mountain of Garbage. He obtained 232 pieces of black fragments, 12 pieces of silver fragments, and 1 knife blade. This exploration led him to decide to leave the area. By helping the people who had accompanied him during his search, he also received the support of King Longjue, who was ready to help him sell valuable items if he found them. Finally, Luofeng felt ready to return to Earth, with new strength and experience gained from his adventures in the Wulong Starfield region. This conclusion emphasizes the importance of personal growth and friendship in his dynamic life journey, as he prepares for the next challenges that await him on planet Earth and in space. After saying goodbye to King Longjue, Luofeng and Dylan were ready to leave the Wulong Starfield area on the Yunmo spaceship, heading for the Qianwu universe. During the trip, Luofeng pondered the crops he had obtained on the Garbage Mountain. In the past, he had only thought that they would be very valuable treasures, but now he was confused about how to use the armor, considering that it might have come from a mysterious foreign race, such as the God Flame clan. On the other hand, King Yanju had been keeping an eye on Luofeng's movements, scrutinizing information about the Earth, and planning for possible future misdeeds. He knew that Luofeng's presence on Earth would be of interest to him later. Back to Luofeng. Their interstellar journey was boring, but Luofeng was enthusiastic about space and planned to train in Chaos City, where he could understand the deeper laws of the universe. However, after more than 8 months of travel, Luofeng received a shocking email from the Virtual Universe Company regarding the Domain Master Level Supreme Point assignment. This task was very different from the previous tasks he had undertaken. With a total potential reward of up to 2 million points, Luofeng was asked to capture and punish 18 senior officials from the slave trade organization known as Flame Wind. The requirements of this task are very flexible, giving Luofeng the freedom to determine how to arrest and punish these members. However, he must complete this task based on certain parameters, including synchronizing all his activities with the Virtual Universe Network. Luofeng felt burdened by this responsibility. Although what Flame Wind was doing was illegal and unethical, he realized that the way he carried out this mission would greatly affect his assessment. There were no clear instructions as to what actions were justified and what were not. and every decision he made would determine the success or failure of this mission. In reflecting on his task, Luofeng recalled how important it was to be cautious and strategic in his approach. He knew that it was time for him to demonstrate his abilities and take the first step toward greater achievements among the Domain Master warriors and in the wider world. Through an in-depth exploration of moral conflict and control, this story examines the dilemmas Luofeng faces in carrying out this mission, and how his decisions will shape his future while bridging the gap between the treasure he obtains and the moral responsibility he faces. Luofeng is facing a very important and challenging mission in his quest to capture 18 senior executives from the slave trade organization, Flame Wind. After contacting the intelligence department, Luofeng received comprehensive information about Flame Wind, which explained that this organization was involved in horrific practices, including the exploitation and torture of slaves. Through this information, Luofeng was stunned by the moral depravity that existed, especially when he compared the heinous acts in the universe to events on Earth. From the document, Luofeng learned that Flame Wind was led by 18 leaders, each with different powers and specific residences, ranging from World Master Level 3 to Realm World Master Level 9. The organization profited from the slave trade, with the natives of the planet Bass being enslaved to collect the rare and valuable rainbow firegrass. Using data from intelligence, Luofeng prepared the shortest route to capture the executives. On the way, he felt a strong killing intent towards them and vowed to punish them, noting that in this kind of situation, there was no choice between right or wrong, only decisions that could be made based on his personality. When the Yunmo spacecraft landed on the planet Bass, Luofeng and Dylan immediately dove into the atmosphere, aiming to reach the slave's location. From the top of the mountain on the planet, they could see a weak slave struggling to find rainbow firegrass, reflecting the tragic fate suffered by people who become slaves over time. Dylan explained to Luofeng that the slaves were natives who had lost their freedom after the Flame Wind took over the planet Bass. With great empathy and knowing the range and strict surveillance of the Flame Wind, Luofeng carefully used his mental powers to understand the situation around him and devised a strategy to continue his mission. With the firm intention of correcting the existing injustice, Luofeng and Dylan are preparing to carry out their plan. While some elements of the mission may not be entirely clear, Luofeng's desire to confront Flame Wind and take decisive action grows stronger as they witness the suffering of the indigenous people of the planet Bass. This mission became more than just a point or status for Luofeng. It was about justice, returning power to those who had been deprived of it, and eradicating extremely inhumane practices. In a vast plain surrounded by wooden houses, the huge wood tribe is experiencing a severe crisis. Spaceships made by the Flame Wind, with a design resembling a phoenix and some of them 100 meters in diameter, suddenly appeared in the sky. The natives who saw them were filled with fear, hiding in their respective homes and only peeking out of the windows. They knew that the arrival of these ships meant bad news. When the Flame Wind warriors, who were considered demons by the locals, descended from the spaceship, they carried a terrifying aura and obvious power. The heavily horned man, their leader, demanded the tribal chief and demanded the delivery of slaves to fulfill the unmet rainbow firegrass quota. A very large number, 1,213,682 tribal members, had to be handed over. Volunteers to gather tribesmen were chosen based on their contributions. Those who made small contributions would be enslaved and traded, while others could survive. Cries and wails filled the area as tribesmen were forced into spaceships and had no way to fight back. The suffering was intensified when the tribal leader Long Lu, a young genius, tried to fight back, but he was quickly attacked and captured by the Flame Wind warriors. Long Lu, who had extraordinary potential, was desired by the Flame Wind warriors, who thought he would be sold at a high price if trained properly. In that cruelty, the tribal leader and several other members were mercilessly killed by the Flame Wind warriors, showing how cruel their power was. However, the situation began to change when Luofeng and Dylan appeared. Their presence caused tremendous tension, making all the Flame Wind soldiers who were previously aggressive and confident feel a deep sense of fear. Luofeng, with his extraordinary strength, showed everyone that he was not an opponent to be taken lightly. With a simple wave of his hand, Luofeng punished the Flame Wind warriors with the death penalty without guilt. supporting some of them until they were destroyed without spreading blood or flesh around them. His actions shocked all the natives, who thought there was hope in their darkness. They began to kneel and call Luofeng a god, full of gratitude for what he had done. This action signaled the beginning of their liberation from long-standing oppression, and for Luofeng, it was a major step in his mission to bring justice to those who had suffered. In the gripping atmosphere of Planet Bass, the huge wood tribe lives in deep fear. After generations were enslaved by the slave trade group Flame Wind, they have been taught to regard warriors as invincible entities. However, the presence of Luofeng and Dylan changed everything in an instant. The powerful Luofeng was able to destroy the Flame Wind warriors with ease, and this act sparked new hope in the hearts of the depressed residents. Long Lu, as the genius and hope of the huge wood tribe, had a moment of enlightenment when he saw the power of Luofeng. He felt compelled to submit himself and ask Luofeng to accept him as a follower. However, from Luofeng's perspective, he saw the neglected potential in Long Lu, an individual who could be molded into a great force in the future if given the right guidance. After destroying the Flame Wind warriors, Luofeng and Dylan decided to continue their mission and leave the area. Before they left, peace and relief enveloped the remaining huge wood tribe people, although they remained concerned about the reaction of the Flame Wind leader after losing many high-powered warriors. Inside the Flame Wind headquarters, the alarm started to sound, and the situation became chaotic when Klaus, an executive from Flame Wind, was surprised by his men reporting that two powerful warriors had entered their territory. In fear, he and his bodyguards prepared a spaceship to escape, realizing that Luofeng's strength was quite intimidating, and that they were not in an advantageous position. When the Flame Wind headquarters was threatened by outside forces, Luofeng decided to show the criminals unstoppable force and pain. With a wave of his hand, he destroyed all the spaceships that were trying to escape. This sight shook the hearts of the Flame Wind warriors, exposing them to the terrifying reality of forces beyond their control. Luofeng and Dylan were fully aware that their presence brought real hope to the huge wood tribe, who could now look beyond their suffering and dream of freedom. As Klaus and his bodyguards knelt, acknowledging their loss and showing respect to Luofeng as a god, the situation symbolized that this previously dark land was beginning its journey to liberation from the shackles of oppression. As everyone around began to pay their respects to Luofeng, new hope was reflected in their gaze. Luofeng, who initially came to complete the mission, now also finds new meaning in his power, not only as a tool of will to fight, but also as a pillar of hope for those who have long been oppressed. The influence of his power affects not only the world of hostility, but also encourages the birth of a new generation that will build a better society in the future. Long story short, Luofeng and Dylan found themselves in the middle of a drastically changed situation after the battle against the Flame Wind warrior. In an emotional moment, they discussed the killing that Luofeng had just committed. Luofeng explained how satisfying it was to kill enemies with his own hands. His actions were not just about killing, it was a statement of the power and control he had over the enemies who had been oppressing the defenseless. Luofeng always upheld the principle that every action he took had to originate from his heart, without pretense. Dylan observed and understood the ethics practiced by Luofeng. He appreciated the way Luofeng took out his opponents, not only with extraordinary abilities, but also with confidence and courage. The presence of Luofeng, who fought oppression in a direct and tangible way, made Dylan feel proud and inspired. Every action of Luofeng became a symbol of protest against deep-rooted injustice, as well as a symbol of hope for the huge wood tribe, who had long lived in uncertainty and fear. Although many people, especially those trapped in a system of oppression, see death as a terrifying end, for Luofeng, the death of the enemy was a step towards freedom for the oppressed. Choosing to get directly involved, killing with his own hands, is a reflection of Luofeng's firm character. In his view, decisive action cannot be separated from what he believes to be the truth, and this makes him a figure worth following and respecting. Dylan, who is always by his side, understands this philosophy and supports Luofeng's approach, based on honesty and fairness. In the silence that accompanied their conversation, the two stared at each other, understanding that the next step was to protect those left on Planet Bass, and ensure that no more oppression would befall the huge wood tribe. They realized that by courageously making choices and acting according to their conscience, they were not only fighting for their own lives, but also for a better future for everyone in the universe. Luofeng continued his brutal attack on the Flame Wind Group, wiping out 18 executives in a cruel manner. Each murder became part of his inevitable journey of revenge, starting with 2 Flame Wind Group executives, Kevin and Pali Mande, and the number of victims continued to grow. In his short journey, the number of people he killed reached over 1 million, representing the restraint of power that this evil organization and tyrant had enforced all this time. Between murders, Luofeng pondered the philosophy behind his actions. He believed that every murder he committed was justified, based on the betrayal and suffering that the Flame Wind Group had created. Brutal though he was, he had his own view of justice, to be the punishing hand for those who had exploited the defenseless. After killing Pali Mande, Luofeng and Dylan sat in the control room of the Yunmo spacecraft, reflecting on what had happened. Luofeng said that enjoying red wine after killing gave a sense of satisfaction. However, Dylan, who was experienced in war and slaughter, warned Luofeng about the emotional dangers that might accompany it. How could a killer lose their humanity if there was no clear reason to kill? As they prepare to face Tunshi, who is the leader of the Flame Wind Group, they share their views on this figure, a slave who managed to rise to a powerful ruler with extremely cruel methods. On one hand, Tunshi was an admirable figure for his perseverance, but on the other hand, he was also the cause of suffering for many people, making him a villain in Luofeng and Dylan's eyes. Arriving at the Bin asteroid cluster, where Tunshi has gone into hiding and continues to flee the violence he ordered, Luofeng and Dylan prepare to face the man who has become a symbol of oppression. With all the atrocities he has committed and his vast network of power, they realize that facing Tunshi, a World Master Level 3 warrior, will be the ultimate test for Luofeng, not only for their physical strength, but also for the moral principles and justice Luofeng holds dear. As they penetrate into the dark and dangerous territory of the outer universe, hope remains for the huge wood tribe, and the slave planets begin to shine again. Luofeng and Dylan's fight is not only for revenge, but also to right the course of history and provide justice for the oppressed. While on a journey to discover Tunshi's whereabouts, things suddenly got dangerous. Luofeng faced an unexpected threat from the Shaluo flower, which was not just an ordinary plant, but an extremely powerful man-eating life form. He found out that this flower had astonishing abilities and could even be classified as a World Master level plant life form. Just as Luofeng was trying to analyze the situation, Shaluo flower's attack began. The screeching sound and luster of the bright flowers emitted a terrifying aura, as if creeping up on him. Instantly, dozens of the flowers swarmed around Luofeng, ready to swallow him whole. Its power as a 9th-level World Master lies not only in its strength, but also in the way these flowers operate. They functioned like predators, using natural intelligence to catch their prey. Luofeng, sensing the increasing danger, realized how serious this threat was. In a state of urgency, Luofeng concentrated his energy. He was not only a physically strong warrior, but also the owner of various techniques and abilities. With his skills and combat instincts, he began to respond to the attack, seeking an opening amongst the flowers that enveloped his body. Shaluo flower, intent on devouring him, unleashed his formidable combat power. Using the fighting techniques and energy he possessed, Luofeng attempted to tear off the shackles of those terrifying flowers, showing strength he had never shown before. Every movement was calculated and coordinated, with a burning passion to not let himself be captured. The combination of his body and technique against the man-eating plant's suppression ignited an incredible potential within Luofeng. In this thrilling battle, he not only fights for his life, but also to answer the riddle behind the existence of the flower, the Shaluo flower, and the mystery surrounding it. This battle becomes a crucial moment for Luofeng, not only to survive, but also to strengthen his resolve and understand the forces he faces, as well as the new challenges that may arise in the future. What will happen next, and how Luofeng will overcome this threat, are also part of the bigger question. Who is controlling this Shaluo flower, and what are their goals? Instead of being curious, let's just wait for next week. So that's the spoiler for episode 167 of the SwallowedStar series. Okay, thank you very much for watching until the end. The last word from me, bye.